I
Perhaps
can.
before we begin, could you just explain to people what it is you do? What are you auditing?
Yeah, so I'm a group of YouTubers that sort of go out and look at public services, things like police station, job centres, and we like to sort of look at how our tax money is being spent. And then we also sort of look at the sort of interactions we have with those sort of public officials. And yeah, that's pretty much in a nutshell what sort of auditors do on YouTube.
And you're often filming the police in public events and making sure that they're not overstepping their mark. Now, in this case, you turned up. Had you gone there specifically to see this protest against the lesbian project?
No, I just happened to come across it. I was in the sort of Bloomsbury area of London, and I seen some police lights going off, heard a bit of music, and decided to sort of take a walk up and see what was happening. Asked a police officer, he said it was a street party, so I thought, all right, cool, I'll get my camera out and start recording. And then sort of what unfolded, you can sort of see in the video.
Yeah, it's astonishing. It's like the activists surrounded you and you weren't hostile to them, but they started calling you a fascist and pushing into you. What possible justification would they have for this?
I've no idea. As I say, I didn't know much about the sort of trans movement and sort of what they were there protesting about sort of before I went into that situation. I thought it was very sort of hypocritical how they were sort of stopping me from walking down the street and trying to stop recording, but yet seemed to want to call me a fascist for whatever reason. But yeah, I have no idea sort of why it sort of turned the way it did. And as I said, I didn't really know. I was very naive getting into that situation.
And that's very interesting, isn't it? Because this is not an area that you've known a lot about, the conflict between feminists who are concerned about their single spaces and their rights, and trans activists. In this case, they'd specifically been protesting against the Lesbian Project, because that's an activist group that wants to deal specifically with lesbian issues. And they are saying that this is trans exclusionary. From what you've seen, is this an area that you might be interested in covering in the future, or are you just going to steer well clear?
No, I think it's something that I am definitely going to be looking at a bit more in the future. I've sort of learned a lot since this incident. So I woke up on Sunday morning and it was like I landed in an alternate reality. And I've sort of learned a lot since then. And I'm certainly sort of going to get across to some of the Let Women Speak events, just to sort of see how they're policed and see how these protesters react during these sort of interactions, just to see if it's an ongoing. If so, I'm going to try and document it.
Yes, well, it's very important, I think, that we do see these things documented. We've actually got a second clip of something else that happened to you during this. Let's have a look at this one.
Yeah.
Excuse me, let me get past, please. Let me walk down the... You look at what you're doing. I told you I've got no fight with you guys whatsoever. I'm just walking down the road doing a bit of filming. You know, like, and these are doing this.
So at that point, when they punched the phone out of your hand, did you at all feel that you were in a precarious position here? Did you feel threatened?
Yeah, no, it was very surreal. As I say, I hadn't experienced anything like that before, Andrew, and like there was a large police presence, so to speak, and I didn't to escalate to that sort of severity. But at the same time, I was surrounded. They were barging into me, pushing into me, shouting at me from every direction. So for most people, they would sort of see that as a very intimidating situation. I thought it was just very surreal. I just couldn't understand why it had happened and why it was sort of going that way.
I mean, there were a couple of moments where you tried to have a conversation with certain people there. It does strike me that at a lot of these events, conversation is just something that's not on their mind. You know, a lot of these activists don't believe in debate and discussion. Is that the sense that you got from them?
Yeah, so I spoke to two individuals that I believe were sort of part of the organisers of that protest, and they asked me my opinion on the sort of trans movement, and my opinion was that it's your own life, live it as you want to live it. I did highlight one issue that was sort of that I had with them, and that was the sort of freedom of speech element, and that I felt that they shouldn't be forcing other people to call them by a gender if they didn't feel comfortable calling them that. And that seemed to be the sort of turning point. And yeah, it just seemed to sort of go downhill from there.
And you've had threats since this. It does feel like there's a certain, at least a contingent within the movement that are very hostile or who will jump to violence first. Do you think that the police were doing enough at this particular event?
No. I spend quite a lot of time sort of documenting the police and their activities. A lot of criminality going on at that event. There was drug taking, there was public order offences. I'd been assaulted, apart from being punched and having the phone punched from my hand. I'd been assaulted several times. I had people bashing into me, hitting me with their signs, and the police were in close proximity to it. They were seeing everything that I was seeing, and they done nothing whatsoever. And when I did ask them for assistance, they seemed almost too scared to intervene and to do anything. And that's what probably surprised me the most.
Now, you know the law very well because, of course, you find yourselves in these positions with police in the public square quite a lot. Surely people even shouting fascist at you, that would be some kind of violation, let alone when they start actually making physical contact with you.
Being called a fascist, it was just so ridiculous. It doesn't even bear sort of talking about. But having people using loudhailers to use bad language to verbally abuse me, have people sort of barging into me, and then when I make sort of one move to try and sort of move a sign out of my way, the police then seem to want to jump on me. So I just couldn't understand it, and yeah, the police really took me by surprise.
And now that it's happened, do you feel any regrets about going there? Would it have been better if you hadn't have gone there in the first place, do you think?
No, I don't regret it. Obviously, I've had threats to myself and to my family, which obviously isn't nice. But I'm glad I caught it. I'm glad I got to see what this group was sort of doing, and I'm glad I got to sort of highlight sort of how the police were dealing with it. Because in my opinion, it's something that the general public need to be aware of, because that could have been anybody. I was just a random guy walking down. I happened to see what I thought was a party in the street, decided to record it. And that could have been anyone, and anybody could have been sort of surrounded by that large group of sort of violent people, and it may have sort of went a different direction, and somebody could have got sort of seriously hurt.
Well, I think it's terribly important that people are filming these things and that we see the footage. We've had the Let Women Speak event in New Zealand, of course, where media outlets are trying to deny there was any violence. So we require the filming to tell us exactly what went on. Can you finally just tell us where people can find your videos and how they can support you?
Yeah, so I'm on Twitter. So if you just check for the Laughing Auditor, and my YouTube channel is the Laughing Auditor as well. I'm pretty sure I'll pop up pretty quickly, and you can sort of see the video on there. I think it's titled "Trans Protest Out of Control," something like that. So yeah, I'm on Twitter, I'm on Facebook, and I'm on YouTube. So I'm sure if they check that, they'll find me.
Well, the Laughing Auditor, thank you very much for joining me tonight. Really appreciate it.